Hi beautiful, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be applying and reacting to my 2022 top products. I did a video last year, it was called my top 10 products of 2022. I have them all in front of me. I'm going to be doing my makeup with a lot of these today, and I'm going to be reacting to it in the sense of I'm going to tell you if these are still top favorite products for me that I wish for all of the time, or in some cases whether there's been something that has changed in my taste of makeup or a new product that I prefer over the older one and all of that good stuff. I'm super excited to put all of these products on and revisit my top 10 products of 2022. So give this video a thumbs up and let's go ahead and get started. I didn't have any eyebrow products as my top 10 of 2022, so I am using my regular favorite eyebrow products, and as per usual, everything I'm going to be talking about in today's video, everything that is on my face will be listed and linked down below. So if you're interested in any of these products or any other products I may mention throughout the video, check the description box for the links. I did already moisturize my face before I started filming, so the first product I'm going to start with is a primer that became part of my top 10 products of 2022 and I still quite love, might I add. I'm talking about the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Balm right here. I love this one so much, I didn't even have to look for it in a drawer. I had it in my makeup bag that I packed to go to Miami a couple of weeks ago because I take this product with me everywhere. Still, nothing has changed when it comes to this one. It is still a fantastic product. I have used it a ton all throughout this year, of course, and I use very little of this one. I feel like it's going to last me a lifetime because I just kind of wet my fingers on it and then very slowly smooth this product over my cheeks. I don't even use it all throughout the face. I use it just in the center. It helps me to hide my redness. It helps me to hide my pores and my texture. And even though it's a matte product, I have never felt that this one dried me out at all whatsoever. I find it nice and creamy. I find that it sinks right into my skin. I don't think it causes any unnecessary extra texture on my skin. I really still love this one. It's still one of my go-to favorite primers in my collection. I feel like the trick to it is to really work it into the center of the face, in my case, which is the area where I have the most pores, the most discoloration, the most amount of redness and whatnot. So I like to really rub it in all around my problem areas, and I just love that it hides my pores, that it hides my redness, and it gets my skin nice and prepped for foundation. Usually this is the way that I still reach for the Yummy Skin Balm from Danessa Myricks. I use it mostly as a primer. However, I feel like this is also a good product to use on no makeup days, because I could just kind of throw on a bronzer now and the redness is covered enough that I feel like for a no makeup look, I could get out of the house without having the additional coverage of foundation. Again, for no makeup days, but it does give me a good amount of coverage in my opinion. I have to work it a little bit extra onto this cheek right here. This one's usually a little bit extra red. And I just realized as I was applying this product that I love it so much, I actually have hit pan on it. I couldn't see it at first because I rubbed my fingers in so it doesn't clear it out, but look, right there in the center, we've hit pan on this one. That is how much I've used it all throughout the 2023 year. So long story short, the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Balm, I have not changed my mind about it. It's still a fantastic product. I take it with me everywhere. It does not dry me out. It gives me a good amount of coverage. And I truly believe that not only does it make my foundation work less hard, but it also helps with texture and with the longevity of my makeup. So 1 year later, I still highly recommend this one. For foundation, I had two foundations I mentioned in my top 10 last year. One of them, the number one, the Chanel foundation. I have mine in the shade B20. Mine, I have like barely any left in, and I have been saving that little bit of foundation for the longest time because I have other foundations that I can use and I don't want to repurchase it. I feel like I can still work with whatever's here for like content purposes. The Chanel number one foundation is a foundation that I still really love. Now I will say that I have noticed something with it the last few times I used it that I didn't notice at first, and it is that it does get like the tiniest bit dry around my mouth area, which my Pat McGrath foundation never does, and that is kind of like the closest comparison to this one. You guys know my Pat McGrath foundation has been one of my top foundations in my collection for years and years. This one came like very close to it. I love it so much, but I do prefer the Pat McGrath foundation over this one just a tiny bit. I find that this one has a bit more coverage than Pat McGrath, but the Pat McGrath foundation has a lot of hydration. It's never looked dry on me at all. So in that sense, I feel like Pat McGrath wins over this one. Now, because I'm saving this little bit of foundation for a special occasion, I'm not going to apply this one today. I'm going to apply the other foundation I talked about last year. But know that the number one, the Chanel foundation, is still one of my all-time favorites. I did a video this year where I compared my top 4 favorite foundations, and I highly recommend that you watch it so you can see where this one ranks. I put all of my favorites side by side and I picked which one I like better at the end of the day after wearing it. It was a fun video to make. I have an ultimate favorite on there that you should check out, and that way if you're very interested in this one, you can see how this one compares to the others. Overall, this is one of the best foundations in my collection still. However, I did try some foundations this year that might have taken the spotlight away from this one just a little bit. The other foundation formula I mentioned in my top 10 of 2022 video was the Lancome Tint Idol Ultra Wear Care and Glow foundation. I have 2 shades of this one because my main problem with it is they don't have my perfect shade available. I have a neutral undertone. I had last year 310 neutral, which as you can see is a bit dark for me. It's like a little bit darker than my summer color even. And so I went ahead and purchased 120 neutral, which as you can see is a bit lighter than my complexion. And so I have to mix these two in order to make my perfect shade. With that said, I love this foundation formula so much that I didn't even see an issue in having to buy 2 different ones. I knew that I wanted to make this foundation formula work for me because I love this foundation formula. It is creamy, it hides everything, it covers my texture, and it never ever looks dry on my skin. If we compare these to say the Pat McGrath foundation, which I'm always talking about because I love it, these are a bit creamier, a little bit less watery than Pat McGrath, but they last beautifully on me. They cover everything I want covered, and they never ever look dry on my skin, which I have very dry skin, so that's usually my main issue. That's my main concern with foundation. So I highly recommend these still. I was not wrong to name these in my top 10 of last year at all. So I'm going to do 2 pumps of each and mix it. I did 2.5 pumps of the lighter one because I think I am a little bit lighter at the moment. Yes, I feel like this mixture was perfect. I have my reference sponge right here and I am just going to go to town. So just take a look right here at how this one covers absolutely everything. Those 2 colors combined are truly my perfect shade on the Care and Glow foundation. And I feel like with a lot of foundations, I wouldn't find it worth it to have to buy 2 different shades to combine, because there's a lot of foundations out there that have my perfect shade in them. But with this one, honestly, the formula is so good and I love it so much that I did not even care. I knew that I wanted to make this formula work for me. And as you can see, mixing the shades I mentioned together gives me the perfect color. I didn't have any color correcting or concealer products in my top 10 last year, so I'm applying some current favorites. But what I did have in my top 10 favorites last year was a translucent setting powder, which is very rare for me because up until recently I feel like translucent setting powders just weren't something I was a fan of. However, last year I fell in love with the Laura Mercier Tone Up Rose Setting Powder right here. And this one honestly opened a whole new world of opportunity for me. This is what started my romance with pink under eye setting powders. I have since tried the Givenchy one, the One Size Beauty one, and also the Danessa Myricks one. So I absolutely do still love this one, but I don't use it as often anymore because I have tried others that I like even better. To be more specific, I prefer the Givenchy translucent powder to this one, which I tried in the spring of this year, because it's a little bit thinner in texture than this one. It blurs everything without it looking like I'm even wearing powder. And I feel the same about the Danessa Myricks pink powder. That's actually the one that I have been using the most lately. It is brightening and it is so thin, much thinner than this one, and so I feel like that with my dry skin helps avoid any redness, helps avoid any texture underneath the eyes, and it still gives me that brightening, poreless effect that this one gives me. I'm going to go ahead and apply it with my Beauty Blender Puff and just take any excess off right here on my hand and just press it right under the eye. So as you can see, this is going to mattify everything. It's going to blur my pores, and it's going to also brighten the center of the face. I do still really love this powder. I think it is fantastic. Look at the difference after versus before. You can see luminosity, you can see some pores on this side, and once you put that blurring translucent powder on this side, everything seems to kind of fade away. However, the other two powders I mentioned are just even thinner and more weightless than this one, so I just tend to gravitate towards those a little bit more. But I have nothing against this Laura Mercier translucent setting powder. I absolutely do still love it. It does do what it's supposed to do, and it continues to be my favorite powder from Laura Mercier specifically, because the rest of her translucent powders that she is so popular for, I don't like. This is the only Laura Mercier powder that I truly enjoy putting on. Her regular translucent powder, for example, has always been way too thick and way too drying for me. So the Tone Up powder from Laura Mercier is where it is at for me, for sure. As you can see, the pores and the texture fully gone. If I hadn't tried powders like the Givenchy Prisme Libre powder or the Danessa Myricks pink powder, this would probably still be my #1 favorite powder in my collection. However, those I did try this year, and so this one is kind of falling back a little bit, but it's still a fantastic product. The next top product from 2022 is actually a bronzer from M Cosmetics. This is the M Cosmetics Corselet Sculpting Powder Bronzer right here in the shade Slip, which is their lightest color. And when I was watching my video from last year and I saw myself mention this one, I was like, why did I forget about that bronzer? Because I truly did this year. I don't know what I've been doing. I don't remember when the last time was that I used this bronzer, but for some reason, it just slipped my mind. I've been using the M Cosmetics Cream Contour, I've been using the Westman Atelier Cream Contour, the Gucci bronzer, the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer, the bronzer in the Jellyfish palette, and I haven't been reaching for this one as much as I used to, which is a huge shame because I actually do prefer this bronzer to a lot of the ones I just mentioned. Let's go ahead and apply it. I have my Sigma Powder Sculpt F44 brush, which you can find in my Sigma collaboration favorites kit, which is linked below. Anyways, this brush I love for bronzer. I'm going to go in with this one and let's just bronze up the face. I was saying in my video from last year that one of my favorite things about this bronzer is the fact that it is so soft and so cool toned, because it will sculpt the face and bronze it at the same time, and it is a really nice and buildable powder. So you're not going to do too much too fast. You have time to build it and decide exactly where you want to place it. It gives a really nice sculpt to the face because of the beautiful cool tone that it has. And I love cheek products that are not too pigmented, and this is exactly what this bronzer gives me. It gives me the security of knowing that I can very easily build it up, but that it's not going to make my face ever look muddy or anything like that. When it comes to cheek products, I truly do rather go back and add more and build it than having to try and blend it down because I did too much. That drives me crazy. Gives me a little bit of a panic because I feel like it's not going to work out. The conclusion is that I need to bring this bronzer back forward in my drawer. I don't know why it was hiding, where it was hiding. I found that kind of in the back there. And I don't know what happened. I don't know how I stopped using it. I don't know why I did it. I'm not sure at what point I stopped reaching for this one. I think that this bronzer and the contour stick that M Cosmetics sells are hands down my top 2 favorite products from the M Cosmetics line. I highly recommend them. This bronzer feels luxurious and it honestly is simply a delight to apply to the face. 10 out of 10. Cannot believe that I have not used this one in a while. I feel like I've betrayed it. I should have hit pan on this one a long time ago. But sometimes we go through phases with our makeup products, especially when we have a large collection where you reach for a specific thing all the time and then something new comes along and you kind of forget about the previous thing. However, in this case, there hasn't been a new thing that came out that has replaced this one for me. I do still consider this one of my top bronzers in my collection. It is natural, it gives me a beautiful sculpt to the face. It's kind of like a 2-in-1 product. I don't need to contour underneath this one and I don't need to add a different bronzer to like warm things up. It's just the perfect color for me, so I apologize to it for having forgotten it a little bit. And I do still highly recommend it. This next product I'm going to mention was one of the best products that launched last year, not just for me but for a lot of people, and it is the e.l.f. Halo Glow Liquid Filter. This you can use as a highlighting primer underneath your foundation, which I have done before, but I prefer to use it as a highlighter, so I'm going to use it as a highlighter in today's video. Now, when it comes to this one, I still think it's a fantastic product, but I think when it comes to glowy things in general, my makeup preference changed a little bit throughout 2023. I am not seeking the highlighted look anymore as I have done in past years. I would rather be matte and poreless looking than looking for a glow that is going to bring out any texture on my skin. And that is just a mindset shift on my part. That has nothing to do with this product being any less good than I thought it was last year, because I do still consider this a fantastic product and one that does give me a really nice natural highlighted effect. However, as I said, I just sometimes kind of prefer to go without a highlighter these days than to add something that might enhance my texture even in the slightest. Like, I just added this to my face and I am seeing 1, 2, 3 little dots right there, little texture dots that I couldn't see when my face was matte, for example. This is a perfect example of why I'm not reaching for my highlighter products as much as I used to anymore. Let me do the same thing on this side. And this is one of the most natural highlighter products, but still, if I have any bumps on my face, which I often do because it's normal, I feel like most of us do, if I have anything on my face, on this side looks pretty nice, but if I had put it right here, for example, I would notice those more. Right here, it fell right on top of 3 tiny little bumps that I couldn't see before I added this to my cheek. And so for that reason, I honestly haven't been reaching for this product often at all this year. I think it was probably at the beginning of 2023 when I started kind of changing when it came to highlighter products. I have stopped using, which I think is a huge waste, but I just don't like them anymore as much as I used to. I have stopped using a lot of the highlighters in my collection. I find that a lot of them bring out texture on my skin that is not welcomed. I stopped using the Hollywood Flawless filter from Charlotte Tilbury as well. And whenever I do use that one, because I do still prefer that one over this one, I use it as a glowy primer underneath my foundation. I don't necessarily use it as a highlighter product anymore. This one to me feels a little bit thicker, so I've never preferred it as a highlighter underneath my foundation. If I reach for one, I reach for my Hollywood Flawless filter. So I think this was an excellent dupe. I think this is a fantastic product. I love the packaging. I still love the formula of it. But as I said, it was just my makeup preferences that kind of changed throughout 2023. And even though I think this was a fantastic launch last year, it hasn't been a product that has stood the test of time for me. It hasn't been a product that I have continued to use, and you could clearly see why. Like, this was a perfect example right here of the reason that I have stepped back from chasing the glow, you know? That is how I currently feel about this one. Not a bad product, it's just not a product that I have been reaching for much at all. I just realized that in my top 10 products of 2022 video, I didn't talk about any eyeshadow palettes because I did a separate video for eyeshadow palettes. So we're reacting to 11 products in this video because I do want to talk eyeshadow. There were a ton of palettes last year that I thoroughly enjoyed, but the one that came #1 in my rankings video that I did was my Natasha Denona My Dream palette right here. I do still absolutely love this one. It's been one of my all-time favorite palettes. It's one that I have reached for quite a bit in 2023. I've taken it with me on vacations and whatnot, and I'm going to do a quick little eyeshadow look with it today. This palette has an excellent formula. It has a wonderful color story, and it can give you very simple everyday eyeshadow looks, which is probably what I'll do today. Or you can also make it look nice and smoky and dramatic because you have light shades in this one and you have deep smoky shades in it. I love, love, love this color story. I don't think I'll ever get tired of it. The whole My Dream collection from Natasha Denona that came out last year was an absolute hit in my opinion. Every single product was spot on. Every single product has continued to be my favorite. In particular, this palette and something else that I'll talk about in a few minutes. This was the Sigma E28 from my Sigma Favorites collaboration kits. I'm going to use the E24, which you can also find in that kit, and the shade Carpe Diem right here to deepen up the outer V of the eye ever so slightly. And then with the E54 in the color Thrill, I'm just going to highlight the eyelid area and define it right through here. A little bit more Carpe Diem, and I'm just going to smoke out my lower lash line with it. Back and forth with the E24 from Sigma. I did a bit of eyeliner in the waterline and my mascara because I didn't have any of those products as my top 10 releases of last year. And to round up what I was saying about the Natasha Denona My Dream palette, I was definitely right to make it my #1 favorite palette of 2022 last year because this one definitely has stood the test of time. It is one of my favorite palettes in my collection, and I see myself using it for years and years and years until the formula changes because it dries down or something, which I have 5-year-old Natasha Denona palettes and that's never happened, so hopefully it will last me for a very long time. In my top 10 of 2022 video last year, I put not one but 2 different blush formulas, and I'm going to be applying only one of them to my cheeks today because the other one, and this is the first one I'm going to talk about, is the Gucci blush formula. This was rightfully one of my top 10 products of 2022. This blush formula continues to be my favorite blush formula in my collection. It is incredible. When I did my video last year, I had 2 shades of it, and this year I added a 3rd shade to my collection. I basically have all of the pale-ish, pinky, peachy ones because those are the types of blushes that I usually like to go for. So I have Bright Coral, I believe this is my new one, and then I have O3 Radiant Pink and O1 Silk Rose. These were the ones I had last year. I'm not going to be applying these to my face today because you guys see me wear these blushes here on my channel all the time. Even if sometimes I'm not mentioning them, if you check the description box of my video, these are one of my most reached for products in my collection. I love these blushes because they have this like soft suede finish to them where they don't have a fully matte finish, but they don't actually add any glow to the face either. They just look very natural, and I feel like they make the cheeks look nice and diffused and poreless and ethereal, and I absolutely love this formula. Plus I also love the packaging. These are 100% worth it in my opinion. I like the formula of these Gucci blushes even more than I like my Pat McGrath blush formula, my Charlotte Tilbury blush formula. Like I said, this has been a favorite since the first time I tried it, and it continues to be #1 in my blush collection. The second blush I mentioned last year in my top 10 video was this one here from Cosmetics, which looking back, and I know the reasoning of it, but looking back I'm like, really, I put this in my top 10? Because this is a blush that I actually do really love, but as you can see, it's like a glowy blush, and as I told you, this year I have stepped away from seeking the glow, okay? However, I did say in my video last year that the reason this was in my top 10 favorites of the year was because it's a glowy blush that does not enhance texture. So since I haven't used it in a while, I do trust my word, but I don't know, maybe my preferences have changed or something. I'm sad that it's so pink and I have a peachy eye look on. I feel like this is not going to match, but let's just go for it. I'm using the other side of my F44, and I was right, okay? It is very flattering. I also mentioned in my video last year that one of the reasons this was one of my favorite blushes is because you guys always ask me what I'm wearing on my cheeks whenever I put this one on. And so that made me like it even more. With that said though, I can tell you that I really haven't been reaching for this one as much as I thought I would. And now that I see it all over my cheeks on its own, I do feel like even though I said it didn't really enhance texture, maybe it does just a little bit. You could see these dots here a little bit less before I applied this blush. And maybe that's the reason that this one has not stood the test of time for me, because maybe unconsciously I sort of kind of knew that I just prefer matte finish when it comes to my blushes, which I did say in last year's video. I prefer my blushes to have a matte natural finish to them rather than glowy, but I guess I was just really excited about the fact that you guys seem to like this blush on me. So I mean, it's not a bad blush. I feel like my cheeks look good right now. I like the pink color of it, even though it's kind of contrasting with the eyeshadow I have on. But with that said, I do still prefer a matte to natural finish when it comes to my blushes and my cheeks, and I do find that this one does enhance my texture. It's just a teeny tiny bit, so I don't think it's a favorite any longer. I don't know. What was I thinking? What was I thinking? Just one more product to talk about, which is actually 3 because it's a lip combo, and it is the Natasha Denona My Dream lip collection from last year. As you can see, the lip liner, still a favorite, okay? I mention this every single chance I get. I absolutely love it. I need to get a replacement for it soon because this has been probably my most used lip liner this year. I combine this lip liner with everything. It is the most flattering, natural looking matte lip liner on my lips, and I absolutely still do love it. Let's go ahead and put it on. Take a look right here at what it looks like on its own. As I said, just a fantastic product. When it comes to the lipstick, I just have not been using lipstick that much this year, but it is one of my top favorite lipsticks in my collection regardless, because of the fantastic shade, because it combines so well with my favorite lip liner, and because it is nice and creamy and hydrating. Still a 10 out of 10, still a highly recommended product. Plus this lipstick has a really nice long lasting effect on the lips, and it's hydrating and juicy. I have nothing to complain about when it comes to this lipstick. And of course I also still do really love the gloss that is part of this collection as well. This one is super lightweight. It feels like you're wearing a balm on your lips. I wear the lip liner with the gloss together a lot more often than I wear the lipstick, but honestly all three of the lip products are doubtlessly still favorites of mine, and you can clearly see why. Okay, this looks amazing. I know. It just looks really, really good on the lips. So I highly, highly recommend these, and they totally deserve to be part of my top 10 products of 2022 last year because they are just fantastic. Okay? Probably not just top 10 of last year, but most used this year as well. This concludes the makeup section of this video, but I do have one more product to talk about that was in my top 10 of 2022 video, and that is the Elephant palette from Hourglass. Now this is still a product that I'm very excited about. However, I didn't use it nearly as much as I thought I would use it throughout 2023. It is still one of the top 10 releases for last year. I think it deserved its spot on that list. However, as I said, I just didn't use it as much as I thought I would. And I think the main reason is that just like with the blush, right, where I just don't like the blush to be glowy, I also don't like glowy bronzers as much as I like natural and matte looking bronzers. And the bronzer that came as part of this palette, which is like a huge thing for me, I love bronzers. This bronzer here has a natural to warm finish rather than cool toned, and it has a glowy finish to it rather than matte. So I feel like because when I reach for a palette, I don't usually reach just for like one specific product. Like I'm not going to reach for this just for the blush and use a different bronzer. I usually want to use it all together because that is the purpose of having a cheek palette. So because I was not the biggest fan of the bronzer, I can make it work and I can like it okay and I can contour underneath, etc. But I just was not the biggest fan of the bronzer specifically. I did not reach for the Elephant palette as much as I thought I would. I want to put that bronzer next to the M Cosmetics bronzer, which is a favorite, so you can see the clear differences between the two. See, take a look right there. This has a natural to matte finish. This one has a glowy finish. And I love me a cool toned bronzer because it'll bronze and sculpt at the same time, versus this one looks like the sun next to that one. So mainly for the bronzer is the reason that I didn't reach for the Elephant palette as much as I thought I would. However, we do have a replacement for that one that I do like even better, and that is the Jellyfish palette from this year. This is a palette that I have not been able to put down ever since it came out. As you can see by the muddy looking bronzer, this is a bronzer that I do really enjoy. It has a much more neutral finish to it rather than warm, and my favorite thing is that it has a natural to matte finish rather than glowy. So you can see how those two are a lot closer together than this one. This one looks like an outsider here, and these right here are the types of bronzers that I tend to look forward to using. So because the bronzer in the Jellyfish palette is better and something that I'm much more excited about, I know that I will continue, if I didn't break it, wow. I know that I will continue to reach for the Jellyfish palette all throughout next year, which was something that did not happen with the Elephant palette. Because this one I have taken with me on trips already, and I can just have that bronzer and trust it to do the job on its own rather than having to combine it or just not being 100% happy with the outcome of the cheek look. Alright, this video was actually a little bit longer than I expected, but we are fully done right now. Please let me know which products that I mentioned today you guys still use all the time, which ones you've bought because I recommended them, if you've changed your mind on them, or if you still love them. I am dying to know your thoughts down in the comment section of this video. If you guys liked today's video, don't forget to please give it a thumbs up before you leave. I cannot wait to make my list of my top X products. I'm not sure how many there will be. My top products of 2023, and see how I feel about those next year. That's going to be interesting. I feel like so much changes in a year, but I'm pretty happy that I still love majority of the products that I was loving last year around this time. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I love you all so much. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you back in the next one. Bye.